Well, I think that since everyone's already been through at least one focus group, we can skip through introductions pretty quickly. But I'm guessing that everyone in this room has some interest in real estate in town, whether it be commercial or residential. So maybe just share with us if you're a residential property owner or commercial.
I don't have an interest, I just want to hear what other
Okay.
people have interest in.
You just wanted to add here.
Residential?
No.
Okay.
I'm on the Orleans Historic District Commission, so I have an interest in development and its impact on the historic streetscape.
Okay. Mayor?
Residential.
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 A mix of both,
Both?
golf and commercial,
Great.
but also residential.
Great. Okay. So I think since we don't have any brokers in the room, we'll have to get in touch with them. Really want to get an understanding of market performance for, I mean, I know pretty vaguely how well that's been going here in the region in the last year or so. How long have you had your properties?
Oh, 1995?
Okay.
Oh, off and on since the 90s. Yeah.
So more than 20 years. from
31 years.
31 years.
1976.
Wow, okay.
We're working on it. But
Yeah. And my in-laws were here in the late 50s.
Okay.
We had ours in 1910.
1910.
wow.
Wow. So all long-standing owners of property here in town, and really just want to understand the age of your properties, the value of your properties. Have you made changes? Has that been easy to do in Orleans? I think we really want to get an understanding for if there were to be new pieces of development, particularly in the village center where we know there are a lot of opportunity sites that might become available in the next few years. If there are restrictions or limitations in the process right now that limit the way that you want to use your property or make enhancements, new development, if anyone's had that experience here.
Well, I think one of the variables at the moment is not only the supply chain issues around development of properties, but when you look at the cost of renovation to a primary residence and/or a business, you're talking between $400 and $600 a square foot. And so when you put that into the calculus, you know, 1,000 square feet is $600,000. And so the return on investment, when you add debt service into that, is almost insurmountable. And so it's a hard lift when you think about either living here and renovating and/or coming here for commercial space.
Is that the case across Lower Cape, or is that unique to Orleans? I'm guessing it's not.
I think it's across.
A little of both.
A little bit of both? What's the extra that we're getting here in Orleans, extra cost?
It's distance, it's people.
You have a lot of people coming from off Cape to do the work,
Yeah.
from down Sandwich area, you know? That's why 6 is so busy at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They're all going back home.
Okay.
People who, construction workers are, in some instances, not all, but in some instances are making between $75 and $125 an hour. And that basically allows them to have a middle-class lifestyle out here.
Okay. So return on investment, zoning limitations at all, has that been an issue for anyone or challenge for anyone and their properties?
I don't, well, it depends on what your property is, I guess. But if you're buying residential, you're in residential.
No one has a commercial property.
I
I mean, we
don't.
definitely had an issue where we built the old Beth Bishops in town,
Yeah.
close to beautiful stink. I got in trouble because I parked my personal boats there. I own 2 boats. And I had to move those boats. Now I'm paying somebody else to park my boats on someone else's property, even though I rent that property too for my family. So it's just a weird zoning thing.
Where is that property located?
It is Beth Bishop in the middle of town, 45 South Orleans Road.
Yeah.
But that was a mess because I'm not making much money. Now I got to pay to store my boat somewhere.
That's terrible.
It's pretty interesting.
You would think maybe for residents, they could figure something out, you know?
It was also one of those meetings that happened in like the middle of the night. We had no representation.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it's a little.
that happens, yeah, that's not right. Or having meetings when everyone's gone, you
Yeah,
know?
I think it took place in March when we do our busiest show season. So we go on the road, we do 4 different shows, about 5 days long each, so we are not in town for a month, and it's the craziest month ever.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned earlier about some of the decisions that are made during the off-season while residents maybe aren't in town and
Right.
maybe might not have a say in the process, so we definitely have that noted down. How's the town performing real estate-wise relative to your neighboring communities? Is it on par? Is it lagging behind places like Chatham or?
No, there's no inventory. I sell residential property, but there's just no inventory right now. That's the main thing. People have bought it all up, and until we can get I can't even see, even if interest rates went up, the demand for houses and the cost is still going to go up because if there isn't anything, it's a seller's market until we get 1,000 houses on the market again. And I don't know when that's going to ever happen.
This is primarily residential.
And there's an oil spill out there. so-
Right, yeah. I mean, it's crazy, you know.
So performance in the last 5 years has been upward.
Oh, due to COVID, it's in the
Due to
last,
COVID?
actually since last March is when things started going crazy.
And your products are mainly single-family?
Mhm, mostly, yes.
Is there an opportunity for multifamily in the market?
Yeah, Orleans doesn't have a lot of multifamily. Orleans
Yep.
doesn't have multifamily, unless it's some of the town housing. I think that affordable on Finley Road, right? I'm not sure where even there is multiple
I
housing.
think there's one on Hopkins Lane too.
New,
yeah.
what's the name? Yeah. But no, there isn't multiple family dwellings.
Are there neighboring markets that are doing well with multifamily that maybe
I
set
don't
the
know,
stage
I don't
or
know the
example?
numbers at all, but I'm sure down in Hyannis and Yarmouth and Dennis, they're probably doing, well, usually a multifamily is an investor buying it, really, right, and then renting it.
Is it because the units are too small for families that might want to move to?
It's all price around here. I mean, even down, I mean, it's expensive to live here now.
And what are folks feeling about the possibility or the potential for new multifamily developments in town, in the village center where, obviously we talked about opportunity sites becoming available potentially in the coming years and mixed use development obviously.
Well, I think there's
being
been a
the
push
model.
for that, and they did didn't they change the, I'm not
Yeah,
an authority on this by any means.
yeah. Were you gonna say?
No, I just said that in the coming years, what kind of a horizon are you talking about in the coming years? Just out of curiosity,
5 to 10.
probably at the end of the 10-year mark, maybe?
For mixed use multifamily in the village center?
Maybe.
Well, the sewers have to be up and
Yeah.
running.
Yeah,
There will be.
the
sewers,
assumption is the sewer is
density.
done. Okay,
There will be more density,
there will be.
depending on how much and if it's mixed use, but the downtown will get more dense.
Do you feel that the property owners are just right now kind of holding on until the sewer system is in place and then you think that there's
There
maybe a
isn't that much
floodgate?
land.
Yeah, the downtown property lines?
Yeah, in Village Center, as we were taking a walk yesterday with George, he had pointed out a number of property owners who have shared that they're just kind of waiting.
But there's large blocks that I
Large
think you're
parcels,
talking
yes,
about.
large
Yes, and that's
parcels.
been rumored or discussed for
Yes.
many, many years
Yeah.
of when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's always always a topic of discussion in Orleans, of course, because
Yeah.
it takes up a large part of our downtown, our center of downtown.
Yeah.
But like any town, we have a lot of vacant buildings too,
Yeah,
a lot of vacant
exactly.
storefronts. So who knows how it's gonna play out? I mean, why are they vacant,
You're
And
talking
if-
about vacant storefronts.
Yeah.
That are not in that area.
Right.
That are individual units, and how much are, as Bill mentioned, how much money are people going to be putting in vacant storefronts that feel they can find people to come in and rent them
Yeah.
at a higher rate? I don't know, that doesn't sound like a good, and it's, as you know, right now, it's a very confusing time with the
Yes.
prices. I mean, we're in a boom time, and booms don't last.
Yeah.
So there will be, I'm sure, a correction in the
Yeah.
marketplace at some point. There always has been in the history.
Yeah.
On the topic of vacant storefronts, where is this typically occurring? Are there specific
The Staples Staples Shopping Center.
staples?
Shores,
Shaw's.
Shores area.
Staples and
But they're all
Shaw's?
over,
Yeah.
they're
They're all over.
sprinkled in, to be honest.
Okay.
At least that's the way I've
I know,
seen
my
it.
sister had a business in town, and she had to close, she had two, one in P-Town and one in Orleans, and she had to close the one here because there wasn't enough foot traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I can't pay my rent at this point, So there's that issue that was discussed earlier about, more pedestrian traffic.
That was a few years ago when
Yeah.
things were, it
Were
was
very-
pre-COVID.
Mm.
And that plays into the internet again, internet shopping too.
Mhm.
That
Right.
just times have changed.
Yeah, but P-Town, her shop in P-Town was doing fantastic.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
makes sense.
Well, they've done
Yeah.
Well,
gangbusters
yeah.
all year.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there, in other places in the region, there's a trend of property owners becoming more flexible with the way that they're leasing the spaces, whether they're breaking it up into smaller units so that it's more affordable for the tenant, or they're maybe more flexible to shorter term leases, or helping the tenant fix it up just a little bit so they're there for a much longer term? Is that is that
There are
happening?
Board of Health regulations here that are very stringent.
Okay.
That
For
pretty much
Unit
dictate
division?
what you can do around that.
Okay.
And I don't think there's the demand for the commercial space right now that they're competing with other people to have to make those accommodations.
Yeah, what product are they going to bring that's different than what's here?
Well,
Right.
it doesn't necessarily have to be retail, right?
No,
It could
that's
be
true.
services.
We do have the workspaces now.
Co-working spaces, offices, services,
The medical services
The
have been
medical
buying, but they
mhm.
have the funds to be able to come in and build from the ground up and level things. And
mhm.
that's big business here.
And then when
our
Cape Cod,
demographic.
that's true, and Cape Cod Healthcare moves in, that's gonna really affect.
It's gonna be a
It
nightmare.
could be a nightmare, it could be a boom.
Right, yeah, depends if you need it.
Right.
If you needed it and it
Yeah.
was there, you'll be very thankful. If you don't need it, it could be.
Yeah, but besides needing it, we have to head to Boston a lot for health reasons,
Mhm.
and Quincy and Weymouth and all of that. But, with that in mind, if we had something here, I don't think it could override the impact it's gonna have in a negative way, having that building there. Because the fish market is right next door, other stores are trying, to get in or build. And then you have this massive Cape Cod Healthcare building. So I don't know how that even got in there when years ago, a McDonald's wasn't even allowed in. So how did that get in? I don't
Well,
know.
it's zoning, and it had
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a
space.
fast food zoning
Yeah.
after Wendy's.
But-
It had the acreage.
Not that I
think.
wanted a McDonald's, believe me. I just, but on the other hand too, I'm like, what? And apparently the building's gonna be very close to the road, parking, I guess, in the back, so. it just-
How many stories? Does anyone know that's gonna be?
Probably not more than
Medical
two.
center?
Yeah, I just heard multi, that's all I
It
heard.
wouldn't be more than two.
I don't
Not more
think
than
it's
two,
more than
yeah.
two.
Mm.
We have height
I
restrictions.
mean, I think it'll be similar to the Spalding that's on Old Colony, the look of it,
You
things like
think?
that, yeah.
Yeah.
and that is packed.
Mhm.
Oh, I know.
I mean, all the way up Tote Road, and I mean, you just see where you're driving down, and you pass the Sparrow, of course, and that's
Yeah.
busy, and then it's empty,
Right.
and then you come across that, and so it just kind of shows you what the demographic is
Oh,
using
yeah, that's
in
it.
the off-season. In the
Mhm.
summer, it gets, you know, it's so
Crazy.
busy, it's hard to tell, but in the
Yeah.
off-season, you really see
And-
what's,
And the problem is we don't have a lot of doctors here, so something like this is going to bring in more medical staff and,
Yeah,
you
I was
know.
gonna say, the employee base then becomes really important for the businesses in the area just year-round. That means maybe 50 new staff persons that are there
Yeah.
daily, working at this facility, but also need services
Well,
around.
as it is, there are other
Yeah.
facilities in Harwich or the hospital itself, so they're either going there, to Harwich or
Yeah.
the hospital,
Yeah.
now
Or
it'll be
Fontaine.
Orleans.
Right, right. But they have trouble getting staff, so,
Every
You
place
know.
for medical is having trouble getting
No.
staff. They're not paid.
no. Except if you're in Boston. You know, you could buy a house in cash if you were in the medical field in Boston.
Sure, if you had an ND behind your name,
And
Right.
but not if you were one of the lesser employees.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend who's a nurse, she was a traveling nurse, and she settled in Oregon, and they're paying traveling nurses $10,000 a
Mhm.
week.
Yeah, yeah,
My daughter's doing that in Baltimore.
yeah.
Yep.
Where do we think the employees of Cape Cod Healthcare are gonna be living? Are they commuting in from very
Yeah.
far away?
they're gonna
Have
have
to
to.
commute, or Cape Cod's gotta dish out money. Health guys
Probably,
have to dish out
yeah.
money and buy a place for the staff too.
Has the town been in communication with Cape Cod Healthcare to talk about potentially other things that they might need to support what they're already doing at that site? Whether it be housing for their staff or,
Traffic control?
Yeah, I'm sure
That's
traffic
gonna be
control,
huge.
because that goes to the planning board, but housing, I
That
don't
rotary?
think they're,
But that rotary,
the town can't supply housing for one, you know, it's gonna be a challenge. I mean, we know the housing price is upward of $900,000 is half. If you're getting paid $120,000, maybe $10,000 a month, you still can't afford a $900,000
$10,000 a week.
single family home. You're not even close. So if there's very little inventory, as Mary said, they're gonna have, those people will have to commute in. And Cape Cod Healthcare is very smart at what they do. So I'm sure they figured that, they know this, you know, they wouldn't be building that unless they felt they could staff it. And they know they'll have to pay very
Competitive
travel,
salaries,
competitive, whatever it takes to fill for the time being. Now, maybe they do see that, you know, in the future, it may pay for itself, but they know they're going to have to step up to,
they don't own any other parcels in town, do they?
I don't know, Spalding's part of Cape Health, right?
I think so, is it? Spalding's part of Cape Health.
Yeah,
Yeah, but small
Yeah.
is part of it.
and then they're in Fontaine, which is right down the street, and
Right.
so, they have the Cape pretty tied up, so they know what it takes.
The interesting thing about Cape Cod Hospital and that whole network is they will pay anything to get staff. They will recruit from Boston to get nurses on the weekend and pay them their room and board, transportation, and a premium, just to come down for
Of course.
two 12-hour shifts.
And, you know, set up, because of the demographic of the town,
Mm-hmm.
they really feel it's gonna be busy. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's
could
the truth,
imagine.
it's one of the older average
Right,
age
right.
towns, if not the most in.
I'm sure they didn't buy without doing
Oh,
a
of
study.
course, yeah,
You
and they
that
know
it
how
wasn't
many
gonna-
appointments happen at Fontaine
Right.
and at Cape Cod Hospital, and they figure, okay,
Mhm.
this is what, and where do those people come from?
Yeah.
So when they check into Cape Cod Hospital, they know they're all coming from Orleans or Eastham, and they say, wow, if we could service those people closer to home,
Right.
this is a,
Well, they're also looking at Orleans being the hub for the Outer Cape.
Absolutely.
Oh, so this
So-
will be the hub.
Yeah.
there.
well, I'm sure in a few
Yeah.
years there'll be one in Eastham or Wellfleet. I mean, it will continue
Yeah.
to.
I mean, they
But-
must be the largest employer on the Cape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Must be.
definitely.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Mhm.
Do we know if it's specialized healthcare that will go into the specific facility in
This is-
mind?
No, this is a walk-in.
Oh, it's a walk-in.
Urgent care,
Yeah.
so.
It's like
Oh,
a Fontaine, right? I mean,
The interesting thing about the way it's set up, though, is if you go in there for an X-ray, the X-ray is actually read at Cape Cod Hospital.
Because the systems are all
Yeah, the
connected,
system's all
yeah.
set up. So you can go in, you might have to wait a while,
Yeah.
but you can go in and be treated for a broken arm or similar, things like that, without having to go to the hospital in Hyannis.
Yeah, that's great. So we're talking about residential properties. Do you think that the work from anywhere trend, is that going to have a long-term impact on residential market here in Orleans? I think, Mary, if you've had experience selling in the last year or so, are they younger professionals, are they younger families that are?
It's a mix, it's people still retirement,
Still
coming, they're
retirement.
this is, because, I think people with retirement had a timeline anyway, that they were gonna retire, and maybe it speeded it up a little bit because of, but I think that, I think a lot of these people have been impulsive buyers and buying quickly and spending a lot of money, and partly because they're gonna work from, I've heard a couple of them say they already have a smaller house on the Cape, but now that they're gonna work from home, they want a bigger house so that they can spread out more. Now, whether they're gonna be happy in a year or two's time, that time will tell, whether that's gonna be our norm around here.
I think trying to forecast, we mentioned before, it's going to be very, very challenging. You had COVID and was still in like a COVID type of environment. So you have people that can work remotely, for however long it's going to last. But say 2-3 years from now, when employers might start bringing people back, or some employers start bringing back people that have been living in different homes, might say, I want to go back to where I was because I can't commute from here. I work in Boston, can't commute from here every day. And I think that's going to impact the real estate market.
Is there a good enough transportation network or is that an area of improvement that needs to be worked on for us to be able to better support other residents in town who maybe do want to commute 2 days a week if they have a headquarter in Boston or somewhere else?
Well, you have, from Orleans, you have to take a bus, that goes to Hyannis. From here, it stops. If you're going to take it right from
So
Orleans,
it's
it makes a couple
two-part
stops.
travel.
It's not
Okay.
the most easy.
Their best bet is carpooling,
Mm,
finding a bunch of nurses or whoever
Yeah.
that are gonna come down and then go back home.
Two-part commute up into Boston.
Well, the towns have their local, and they kind of go to Hyannis for the hub, and then.
And they did all that
then it kinda
renovation in
goes to-
Hyannis on the train tracks.
Mhm.
So are they gonna have trains from Boston? But
Mm.
still, then they have to get up
Well,
here.
they do have one or two, right? They have a flyer
Well,
that
I don't
happens on
know.
a Friday, yeah.
On a Friday, okay.
Yeah, I don't know
That
during
one.
COVID if
Okay.
they stopped that, but they did have the Cape Cod flyer, and it's a shame. I mean,
Yeah.
we love the bike trail, but it was nice, it would have, imagine if we did have a train that came down here and the less
Yeah.
congestion of cars and the more people who come enjoy for the weekend.
Does that one even come to Hyannis, or does it just go to
Yeah, I
Bourne?
think it does go to Hyannis. Because the train still runs in Hyannis for freight and things like that, so I do believe it's.
Is there, jumping to short-term rentals, because we know that's obviously real estate opportunity, not just in Orleans, but across the Cape. How are folks feeling about the growth in that particular segment of the real estate market? Are there the right regulations in place for that? Is there areas for improvement to manage what's happening in that, or maybe it's doing great and
I think the town's tackling that right now. It is an issue, and I think that it is something that's going to be on the select board agenda.
What do they term as short term? Is it like the people that rent for a week in the summer and leave?
It's not having a full year lease.
For instance, we have a small rental house. The kids often use it or bring friends when they come up from where they are. And then we rent it out for the rest of the summer. So yes, it is a bit of revenue, but it's also a headache. We've never had a problem with renters as far
Yeah,
as.
there's a myriad of different things,
Oh, I
that's
know.
why.
I've heard about the wedding receptions down in Nauset Heights and the noise and all of that.
Right. And COVID has also added
Mhm.
that we have less hotels.
Right, we do. Yep.
More companies are buying investment properties
Mhm.
in residential neighborhoods and
Yep.
turning them that no one ever planned to live there, except for run a commercial business in a residential neighborhood.
Is there
And-
currently a tax for?
There is a tax for short-term rental, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, and that goes to the wastewater, actually.
Mhm.
A large portion goes to the state, and then I think it's 3% or something, goes
Wow.
directly to our wastewater.
Okay, so you do have that in place, the state tax.
But we don't, regulations are, town regulations are, it's blown up in this last couple of years with COVID, where people don't want to go to hotels. They want to stay within their family circle of people they know, and there have been a lot of beautiful homes built.
And there are very few motel rooms
Yeah,
here.
Yeah,
There's-
there are
Yeah.
very few.
and if you come with a family of 6 or 7, I mean,
Yeah.
you can,
We're down to 3, I think, so.
So they're just
Would you
trying
care
to
guess
figure it out.
what a weekly rental here for a house is?
In the peak,
Mhm.
2,500?
Try 6,000.
Depends on the house.
Yeah.
Depends on
Yes,
the
it's,
house.
Ours is
yeah, you could
1,500.
get something for
For
2,500.
and nobody's looking to change those.
Oh, well, I'm wondering, yeah.
No, it's really
It's
commercial.
these larger
Mhm.
ones.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
could get a
everybody,
very nice
at least
cottage
I
for that.
I can't speak
Yeah.
for everybody, I shouldn't say that, but.
Yeah, from 1,500 to 6,000,
Yeah.
Mhm.
would you say?
Yeah, I'd even go higher.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
6,000
I know we used to
pretty
rent
big
those
houses.
out for
Outrageous, isn't
10.
it?
They mean the house has, what?
Yeah, because we
Eight
had
bedrooms,
Bond,
yeah.
had,
Wow,
that was in Brewster though.
wow.
I mean, there's ones
We're
that
happy with
are
our little thing.
so much money.
So we've heard, so impact on noise for some of these properties, that's one issue. Is parking
Yeah.
an issue, noise, parking, what else are a result of the growth in short-term rentals?
Probably.
Airbnb made it so much easier, Airbnb and stuff like that. You can just get on your phone and do it. You don't have to call a booking agent. Like 15 years ago, you don't have to call a travel agent. You can just hop on your phone, scroll, find as many houses as you want on Cape,
Yeah.
book it.
So
I
it's
think just the
easier.
transientness of it, that
More
every week
convenient
it's somebody
to
different, you
Find
know,
a place,
different
the
group.
places are more, they're more, they have better services. It used to be, you know, drop off a key and you'd have to find it under a mat, and maybe you'd get to talk to someone. Now they have concierge services, and you can tell them what you need. We need bicycles, we need this, we need that, we'd like fishing gear,
People
where do we
get
go?
spoiled.
You know, it's.
I think it changed too, the demographics changed from like, we used to come in 2 weeks. A lot of people come in 2 weeks, now they come in 4 days, a week. So
Yeah.
that's why the turnover rate is increasing for sure.
It's the expense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people aren't traveling to Europe or
No.
further across the, they'd rather not get on a flight, so everybody, if you're
Right.
vacationing in Massachusetts, we are definitely the biggest draw. The Cape is where people want to come. And this isn't just an Orleans-specific
Yeah.
issue, this is all, the whole Cape is dealing with short-term rental
And the problem
influx
is,
of people.
the people that are buying these short-term rentals, they can be very profitable for them, so then they want another short-term, then they want another one.
Yeah.
So you're buying, people buying multiple, or investors buying multiple properties.
So I'm hearing there's two different people that are doing this, right? The long-term residents who maybe have an accessory unit, extra income,
Or a second home that they rent
second
out.
And they
homeowners.
don't have, there have never been the issues with that.
Right,
I understand.
but it's more of
And that's
the,
been going on for decades,
Yeah,
decades
the
and
commercial
decades.
buyers that are purchasing full properties with multiple units or.
8 bedrooms and, yeah, major.
I think the impact on the taxpayer has been police and safety and DPW.
Okay.
When you think about how you run that out over time, the number of rescue calls for seasonal visitors is up. And just the wear and tear on the infrastructure here.
How frequently were the police called because of noise control?
I don't know, I mean, we're in the Heights, that was the first I heard of it, there was like one wedding, so I don't think generally speaking, there's an issue around where we are.